Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, March 24th, 2010. Well, today, or this weekend, was not the most pleasant of weekends. Of course, we had this healthcare reform package passed in Congress. And the interesting thing about this bill is nobody really liked it. If you talked to, or if you saw some of the interviews with a few of the Democrats who voted for it, they really didn't like the bill, and they knew it wasn't a good bill, but they voted for it out of party loyalty. They knew that if the bill did not get passed, the Democratic Party would be sunk, and so they voted for it. But what we saw this weekend was Congress completely going against the will of the people. The people clearly did not want this bill. Americans from both the so-called left, who believed that the bill was not strong enough and too weak, and then, of course, a majority of Americans who oppose the bill because they do not want to add another entitlement program to our system. So nobody liked the bill, but it got passed anyway. But it's some reassuring news. As you all know, the battle has just begun. I mean, yes, we've had a setback this weekend, but the battle continues. The fight continues. So what I want to do in this blog is evaluate some of the different options we have and ask you and everybody who's watching this video, okay, where do we go from here? And I would like your comments if you have any suggestions. But I thought about it for a while and came up with 4 different avenues that are possibilities that we have from here. The first one would be a challenge in the judicial system, and I'll just go one by one and then talk about each. The second one would be a form of nullification, or just a state refusal to enforce the healthcare mandate specifically, but the entire bill in general, especially the mandate. The third option would be a repeal in Congress, and I'm talking about repealing the entire framework, not repealing just the mandate, or repeal the entire thing. And then the fourth option, or fourth possibility we have, is keep the system and allow the system to collapse upon itself. There is no, in my opinion, there's no possibility that this bill is going to work and that's going to succeed. I don't see that happening. I just, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about the first one, a challenge in the judicial system. This bill has unconstitutionality written all over it, especially the mandate. The federal government, the Constitution does not give the federal government the right to mandate that an individual purchase anything for that matter, much less health insurance, purchase a car, purchase a house. The Constitution is supposed to protect the rights of the individual, and this healthcare mandate completely violates that right. So I see a challenge in the judicial system coming up. I mean, there's already been lawsuits. Will the Supreme Court rule on the side of the people? I'm not sure. I mean, John Roberts would probably support the people against the federal government. Clarence Thomas probably would. Scalia probably would. I don't know. It's hard to say what would happen there. Nullification. Now, nullification is a dirty word for a lot of people. It instantly conjures images of slavery and racism. But really, nullification has its roots in Enlightenment philosophy. It's completely divorced from any racial issues. It's a sound political philosophy, and it's meant to protect the rights of the people and the states. This bill is unconstitutional, and the individual states should have the right to nullify this law, especially the mandate. The mandate is key, and that will be key in these court decisions and some of these decisions by state legislatures whether or not to enforce the bill. But it is unconstitutional, make no mistake about it. And nullification is a great way to enforce the rights of the individual and of the states and of the people. Remember, the first instance of nullification or where nullification was brought up in American history, was in 1798 when Thomas Jefferson suggested that Kentucky nullify the unconstitutional Alien and Sedition Acts. The Sedition Act, under John Adams, put in jail any political opponents who spoke out against the Federalist administration. It was completely unconstitutional, it completely violated the First Amendment, and Thomas Jefferson said, hey, why don't we nullify this law? Other instances of nullification, in the 1850s, Wisconsin nullified the Fugitive Slave Act, which forced northern states to return runaway slaves. It was completely unconstitutional. They sought to nullify that. In recent years, states have sought to nullify the war on drugs, which is unconstitutional, according to the 10th Amendment. And they've sought to nullify things like the Patriot Act and other things. So nullification is a great tool. It's completely independent from racism or slavery. It has nothing to do with it. And it's an option that people should consider. The third, repeal in Congress. I'm a little skeptical about this one because I'm afraid the Republicans would only repeal certain parts of the bill. But who knows? In November 2010, we might see a total revolution in Congress and a repeal. That would be great. The fourth one, keep the system and allow it to collapse upon itself. Believe me, this system cannot work. We already have over $60 trillion in unfunded liabilities for Medicare, Social Security, all these other entitlement programs. We cannot afford to have a new entitlement program on top of that. And Barack Obama was always like, oh, this is going to cut the deficit. No, it won't. I mean, what Obama is doing is he's fooling you. He's talking about the deficit, which is completely different from the debt. The debt is going to increase no matter what. The debt cannot go down with this. That's impossible. That goes completely against the laws of nature. The debt will increase substantially. Even before this bill, Obama said that the debt is going to increase close to 19 million, I believe, maybe even more than that by the end of his administration. So the debt is going to go up, believe me. And we cannot afford this. Now, if I'm wrong about this, I will be the first one to admit it. Let's say 20 years from now, this program does great and Social Security does not go bankrupt and Medicare doesn't go bankrupt. You know what? I'll come on here and I'll make a new video blog with a big plate of crow in front of me and I'll eat it in front of everyone and admit that I was wrong and say, you know what, guys? Yeah, I was wrong, and I would work very hard to figure out where I was wrong and how I got this wrong. But I don't think that's going to happen. This system cannot sustain itself. It cannot survive like this. Look at what's happened in Greece. Greece has just completely fell apart due to all the debt and entitlement programs. So, final thing I want to say, I've only got about 2 minutes left. The Republican Party, if this is defeated, if it's defeated in court or nullified or repealed, the Republican Party must come up with a viable alternative. The Republican Party cannot forever be seen as the party of no. They must come up with another alternative because our healthcare system is messed up. There are severe problems with it, and it does need to be reformed. Just not the kind of reform that the statists and the Democratic Party have suggested. And this viable alternative cannot simply be, tort reform. I mean, that's good. We do need that. But that's not enough. We need much more than that. I believe it was yesterday or 2 days ago, Ron Paul was speaking on the news, and he made the case that our country needs, rather than establishing a public option, this country needs to protect the private option. And I think that's an excellent platform to stand on because it's positive. It says we need free market alternatives in a healthcare system. We need to get rid of all these regulations and red tape and bureaucratic mess that raises the cost and overhead for doctors, which in turn increases healthcare costs. So we need to protect the private option. We need to phase out Medicare. We need to get rid of some of this legislation that protects HMOs and big pharma and all this stuff. We need the private option in this country. If the Republicans embrace that, believe me, they will be very popular in the polls. But anyway, that's all I have to say. See you guys next time. Bye.